Most people believe respect is something you earn over months or even years. They think it comes after proving your intelligence, your kindness, or your achievements. But psychology tells a different story. Long before anyone discovers who you are, they have already begun deciding how they will treat you. Within moments of meeting you, the human mind starts collecting silent evidence. It notices the way you enter a room, the pace of your walk, the calmness in your face, the certainty in your movements, and even the silence you carry. Before you speak a single word, your presence has already started telling a story. The greatest mistake people make is believing that words create respect. In reality, words only reinforce what your presence has already communicated. If you walk into every conversation searching for approval, your body will reveal it. If you desperately want people to like you, your expressions, your tone, and your behavior will unconsciously expose that need. Human beings are remarkably skilled at sensing insecurity, even when it is hidden behind a smile. They may not understand why they feel less respect for someone, but their instincts notice the subtle signs. True confidence rarely announces itself. It doesn't compete for attention or rush to prove its worth. It moves slowly. It remains comfortable with silence. It doesn't react to every opinion or seek validation from every stranger. This kind of composure creates curiosity, and curiosity naturally becomes respect. Look closely at those who command attention wherever they go. It is rarely because they are the loudest person in the room. More often, they are the calmest. While everyone else is trying to be noticed, they are observing. While others interrupt, they listen. While people rush to fill every moment of silence, they understand that silence itself can become a source of influence. A person who is comfortable saying less often appears more powerful than the one who feels compelled to explain everything. This is because the human mind associates emotional stability with strength. Throughout history, people have instinctively followed those who remained composed during uncertainty. When chaos surrounds a group, the individual who stays calm immediately becomes the psychological anchor. Others begin to trust them, not because of impressive speeches, but because their emotional control suggests inner certainty. Your posture also speaks a language that words cannot erase. Standing with balance, maintaining natural eye contact, and moving without hesitation communicates that you value yourself. It does not mean appearing arrogant or intimidating. Genuine confidence never needs to dominate others. It simply refuses to diminish itself. There is a quiet difference between seeking attention and possessing presence. One demands energy from others, while the other creates energy without asking for it. Many people spend years trying to become more respected by changing what they say. They memorize clever responses, practice persuasive techniques, and search for the perfect words. Yet they overlook the foundation beneath every interaction. If your inner world is filled with doubt, your outer behavior will eventually reveal it. Presence cannot be faked for long. The way you breathe under pressure, the way you react to unexpected situations, and the way you carry yourself when no one is applauding you always expose your true level of self-belief. The paradox is simple. The less you chase respect, the more naturally it follows. When your focus shifts from impressing people to mastering yourself, your presence begins to change. Others sense that you are guided by purpose instead of approval, and that silent transformation becomes impossible to ignore. Because in the end, respect begins long before your first words. It begins the moment your presence enters the room. Once your presence has captured attention, the next question people unconsciously ask is far more important. Can you remain composed when life refuses to cooperate? Because respect is not tested when everything is easy. It is tested in moments of pressure. Anyone can appear confident when they are being praised. Anyone can smile when everything is going according to plan. But the true measure of strength is revealed when you are criticized, challenged, ignored, or provoked. Human nature has always been drawn to emotional stability. Deep within us is an instinct that constantly searches for people who can remain steady in uncertain situations. This is why a calm leader naturally earns more trust than a panicked expert. When emotions become contagious, the person who refuses to lose control becomes the emotional center of the room. Without saying much, they communicate a powerful message. I am not controlled by circumstances. Many people unknowingly surrender their power because they react too quickly. One harsh comment ruins their entire day. One disagreement becomes an argument. One insult demands immediate revenge. Every emotional reaction gives other people information about what controls you. The moment someone discovers what easily upsets you, they discover where your emotional armor is weakest. And once that weakness is visible, respect begins to fade. This does not mean suppressing every emotion or pretending to feel nothing. Emotional control is not emotional emptiness. It is the ability to experience emotions without allowing them to make your decisions. Anger may visit your mind, but it does not command your actions. Fear may whisper in your ear, but it does not determine your direction. Disappointment may appear, but it never becomes your identity. Think about the people you admire most. Chances are it is not because they never faced adversity. It is because adversity never seemed to own them. They remained thoughtful when others became impulsive. They chose patience when others rushed into conflict. They understood that every reaction carries a cost. While every moment of self-control builds silent authority, psychologically, calmness creates uncertainty in the minds of others. When someone expects you to explode, but you remain composed, they lose the advantage they thought they had. Your silence forces them to question themselves. Your restraint makes them rethink their approach. People often prepare themselves for resistance, but very few know how to deal with someone who refuses to be emotionally manipulated. Imagine two individuals facing the exact same criticism. The first immediately begins defending every accusation, raising their voice desperate to prove they are right. The second listens carefully, responds only if necessary, and walks away without carrying the emotional weight of the encounter. Which one appears stronger? The answer is almost instinctive. We respect the person who controls themselves before attempting to control the situation. There is another hidden benefit to emotional discipline. It sharpens perception. When emotions dominate your mind, your judgment becomes clouded. You stop observing and start reacting. But when your emotions remain under control, you notice details that others miss. You recognize hidden intentions, subtle shifts in behavior, and opportunities that emotional people overlook. Self-control does not merely protect your reputation, it improves your awareness. The strongest people understand that not every battle deserves a response. They know that proving themselves to everyone is a losing game. Some misunderstandings are better left unanswered. Some insults are too insignificant to deserve your attention. Every unnecessary reaction wastes energy that could have been invested in your own growth. True confidence chooses its battles carefully because it values peace more than pride. In the end, people rarely remember every word you spoke during difficult moments. They remember how you carried yourself. They remember whether you remained calm when everyone else surrendered to emotion. That quiet discipline leaves a lasting impression, because nothing commands respect more than a mind that cannot be easily shaken. And once you master your emotions, you begin to master the atmosphere around you. After mastering your emotions, the next challenge is mastering your words. Most people believe respect is earned by speaking more, explaining themselves more clearly, or proving their intelligence in every conversation. But the psychology of influence reveals something surprising. The people who command the greatest respect are rarely the ones who speak the most. They are the ones whose words carry weight because they are chosen carefully. Think about how often people speak simply to fill silence. They interrupt before others finish. They explain details no one asked for. They defend themselves against accusations that were never made. Without realizing it, they communicate one message: I need you to understand me. I need your approval. The more desperately someone tries to convince others of their value, the more that value appears uncertain. Confident people operate differently. They understand that every unnecessary word weakens the impact of the necessary ones. They do not rush to express every opinion. They are comfortable allowing silence to exist because they know silence is not emptiness. It is space. And within that space, people begin paying closer attention. Psychologically, the human mind assigns greater value to what is scarce. This principle applies not only to material things but also to communication. If someone speaks constantly, their words become predictable. The mind stops anticipating them. But when a person speaks with intention, every sentence feels deliberate. Others instinctively listen because they sense that what is being said has already been filtered through thought instead of emotion. This does not mean becoming cold, distant, or mysterious for the sake of appearances. It means learning the discipline of purposeful communication. Before speaking, ask yourself a simple question: does this add value, or am I simply trying to be noticed? That small pause changes everything. It transforms conversation from a search for attention into an expression of clarity. Notice how often people over-explain themselves after making a decision. They continue talking, offering excuse after excuse, hoping everyone will agree. Ironically, each additional explanation makes them appear less certain. A person who trusts their own judgment rarely feels the need to justify every action. They can explain when necessary, but they are not driven by the fear of being misunderstood. There is also tremendous strength in listening. Most conversations are not true exchanges of ideas. They are competitions for attention. While one person speaks, the other is already preparing their response instead of trying to understand. The individual who genuinely listens gains an advantage. They observe not only the words but also the emotions, the hesitation, and the hidden intentions behind them. They gather information while everyone else is busy giving theirs away. People naturally feel respected when they are heard. Ironically, by giving others that feeling, you increase the respect they have for you. They leave the conversation believing you are wise, even if you spoke very little. Why? Because wisdom is often measured less by the amount of information someone shares and more by the quality of their attention. Of course, there will be moments when your voice must be firm. Purposeful communication is not passive. When something truly matters, speak with clarity. Avoid unnecessary complexity. Simple. Direct language carries confidence because it reflects certainty. Strong people do not hide behind endless explanations or dramatic speeches. They trust that a clear message delivered calmly is enough. As you begin speaking with greater intention, something subtle starts to change. People stop interrupting as often. They begin waiting for your opinion. They remember what you say because your words are no longer scattered across every moment. They have become measured, thoughtful, and meaningful. In the end, respect is not built by the number of words you speak. It is built by the value each word carries. And when your speech is guided by purpose instead of the need for approval, your voice begins to command attention long before it demands it. Once your words begin carrying weight, people will naturally start treating you differently. Some will admire your confidence, while others will test it. This is a part of human nature that many people fail to recognize. Whether consciously or unconsciously, people are always observing where your limits are. They notice what you tolerate, what you ignore, and what you allow. Over time, these observations become the blueprint for how they decide to treat you. This is why respect is impossible without boundaries. A person who has no limits eventually becomes someone others stop valuing. Not because they are kind, but because they have taught the world that their kindness comes without standards. There is an important difference between being generous and being available to everyone. One is a sign of strength, while the other often becomes an invitation for disrespect. Many people fear setting boundaries because they mistake them for conflict. They believe saying no will make others dislike them. They worry that protecting their time, energy, or values will appear selfish. So they continue agreeing to things they do not want, accepting treatment they do not deserve, and remaining silent when something feels wrong. In the beginning, this may seem like the easier path, but over time, every unnecessary compromise slowly weakens their sense of self. The psychology behind this is simple. People believe what your actions repeatedly communicate. If you constantly sacrifice your priorities to satisfy everyone else, others begin assuming your priorities are not important. If you never object when someone crosses a line, they often assume there was no line to begin with. Respect is rarely lost in one dramatic moment. It disappears through countless small moments where you quietly abandon your own standards. Strong boundaries are not built through anger or intimidation. They are built through consistency. You do not need to raise your voice every time someone disrespects you. In fact, the calmest response is often the most powerful. A simple refusal, delivered without apology or hostility, communicates something profound. It tells people that your principles are not negotiable. Consider the individuals who naturally command respect in every environment. They are rarely aggressive. They do not constantly remind others of their importance. Instead, they possess quiet certainty. They know what they will accept and what they will not. Because they have already made those decisions within themselves, they do not hesitate when those moments arrive. Their confidence comes from clarity, not confrontation. There is another hidden reason boundaries create respect. They reveal self-worth. Every boundary says, I value my time, I value my energy, I value my peace. And people instinctively respect those who clearly value themselves. Not because they are perfect, but because they refuse to betray their own principles for temporary approval. Of course, not everyone will welcome your boundaries. Some people benefit from your inability to say no. When you begin protecting your time or refusing unfair treatment, they may accuse you of changing. In reality, you have not become colder. You have simply become more honest about your standards. Those who respected you from the beginning will usually understand. Those who only valued your compliance may begin to distance themselves. And that is not a loss, it is clarity. Remember that every meaningful relationship, whether personal or professional, depends on mutual respect. Without boundaries, resentment quietly replaces respect. You begin giving more than you truly want to give, while others unknowingly expect more than they should. Healthy limits prevent this cycle before it begins. They create relationships based on choice instead of obligation. Ultimately, boundaries are not walls that keep people away. They are filters that reveal who is willing to respect the person you are becoming. Every time you calmly protect your values, you strengthen your identity. Every time you refuse to compromise your self-respect for acceptance, you send a silent message that cannot be ignored. Because the moment you stop asking permission to value yourself, other people begin valuing you as well. By now, you have learned that presence creates the first impression. Emotional control protects your strength. Purposeful speech gives your words weight, and clear boundaries define your value. But none of these qualities can survive for long if they are not supported by something even deeper, real competence. Because in the end, respect that is built only on appearance is temporary. Respect that is built on ability becomes difficult to shake. Many people spend years trying to look successful instead of becoming valuable. They carefully manage how others perceive them, hoping confidence alone will earn admiration. But human nature has an extraordinary ability to recognize the difference between appearance and substance. A polished image may attract attention for a moment, but only genuine skill can sustain respect over time. Think about the individuals who naturally become the center of trust in any environment. They are not always the loudest, the wealthiest, or the most charismatic. More often, they are the people who consistently solve problems. When challenges appear, everyone turns toward them. Not because they demand attention, but because their actions have already proven their capability. They have built credibility through repeated performance rather than repeated promises. This is one of the greatest psychological principles of respect. People believe what they repeatedly experience, not what they repeatedly hear. You can tell others that you are disciplined, intelligent, or reliable, but those words have little meaning until your actions confirm them. Every promise you keep becomes another brick in the foundation of your reputation. Every challenge you overcome quietly strengthens the trust others place in you. Competence also creates a unique kind of confidence. It is different from arrogance because it does not depend on comparison. An arrogant person constantly needs others to recognize their superiority. A competent person is focused on improving their craft. Their confidence comes from preparation, not praise. They know what they are capable of because they have invested countless unseen hours developing their abilities. Unfortunately, modern culture often rewards visibility more than mastery. Many people want recognition before they have earned expertise. They chase applause instead of improvement, but applause fades quickly. Skill remains. Long after attention disappears, competence continues opening doors that popularity never could. There is something deeply reassuring about a person who quietly knows what they are doing. They do not panic when difficulties arise because they trust the habits they have built. They understand that preparation removes fear. Every hour spent learning, practicing, and refining themselves becomes invisible armor against uncertainty. Others may not witness the countless hours of discipline, but they always notice the confidence that discipline creates. This is why discipline itself earns respect. Most people admire results, but they respect the process behind them even more. Waking up consistently, honoring your commitments, improving your knowledge, and refusing to settle for mediocrity slowly transform not only your abilities but also your identity. Over time, people begin associating your name with reliability, and reliability is one of the rarest forms of influence. There will always be critics who underestimate you. There will always be people who doubt your potential. Trying to convince them with arguments only wastes valuable energy. The wiser approach is to let your work speak on your behalf. Results possess a quiet authority that opinions cannot compete with. Success does not silence everyone, but it makes unnecessary conversations disappear. Remember that competence is not a destination. The moment you believe there is nothing left to learn, growth begins to stop. The most respected individuals remain lifelong students. They stay curious, refine their weaknesses, and constantly raise their own standards. Their greatest competition is never another person. It is the version of themselves they were yesterday. When your confidence is supported by genuine ability, you no longer need to chase respect. Your consistency, your discipline, and your results begin creating it naturally. Because in a world full of empty words, true competence becomes impossible to ignore. And when your actions consistently prove your value, respect becomes the inevitable consequence. After learning how to shape your presence, master your emotions, speak with purpose, establish firm boundaries, and build undeniable competence, everything leads to one final truth. These are not separate techniques designed to manipulate people into respecting you. They are reflections of something much deeper. Respect from others is almost always a mirror of the respect you have for yourself. This is where many people become confused. They spend years searching for the perfect strategy to make others admire them. They adjust their personality depending on who they are with. They hide their opinions to avoid rejection. They constantly wonder whether they are saying the right things or making the right impression. But beneath all of these behaviors lies one silent fear, the fear that they are not enough on their own. The world has an extraordinary ability to sense this fear. It appears in the way you hesitate before making a decision. It appears in the way you apologize for things that require no apology. It appears in the way you accept treatment that quietly damages your dignity simply because you are afraid of being left alone. Every time you ignore your own values to gain acceptance, you send yourself a dangerous message. You begin believing that other people's approval matters more than your own self-worth. The tragedy is that this approach never creates lasting respect. It creates temporary acceptance at the cost of your identity. People may appreciate your willingness to please them, but deep down they recognize that your choices are being driven by fear instead of conviction. And conviction is one of the strongest foundations of respect. Self-respect is not arrogance. It is not believing you are better than everyone else. It is quietly recognizing that your time, your energy, your values, and your peace deserve protection. It is refusing to betray your principles simply because someone offers approval in return. A person with self-respect does not need to announce their value. They demonstrate it through the standards they refuse to compromise. Notice how people who truly value themselves behave. They do not chase every opportunity to be liked. They are comfortable standing alone when necessary. They admit their mistakes without losing confidence because their identity is not built on perfection. They accept criticism without allowing it to define them because they know that one opinion can never determine their worth. This inner stability creates an invisible strength that others naturally recognize. Psychologically, people trust those who trust themselves. Confidence becomes believable when it is rooted in action rather than performance. The individual who wakes up every day committed to personal growth, who keeps promises to themselves, who continues learning even when nobody is watching, gradually develops an unshakable relationship with their own character. That relationship becomes visible in every conversation, every decision, and every challenge they face. There will always be people who misunderstand you. Some will project their own insecurities onto your confidence. Others will criticize your boundaries because they benefited from your lack of them. Some may even resent your growth because it reminds them of the changes they have avoided. But none of these reactions should become your compass. The moment you allow every outside opinion to control your direction, you surrender the very independence that earns genuine respect. Instead, measure yourself by a different standard. Ask whether you acted with integrity. Ask whether your actions reflected your principles. Ask whether you became stronger, wiser, and more disciplined than you were yesterday. These are the questions that shape character, and character is something that cannot be borrowed, purchased, or imitated. It is built through thousands of quiet decisions that nobody applauds. In the end, respect is never something you can force. It is something you become worthy of through the person you choose to be every single day. When you respect your own mind enough to discipline it, your own emotions enough to master them, your own time enough to protect it, and your own potential enough to develop it, the opinions of others begin to lose their power over you. Ironically, that is the very moment when genuine respect starts to appear naturally, because the strongest form of respect is never demanded. It is quietly earned by those who first learn to respect themselves.